Hi, Dr. Kim.
Hey, Colby, how are you today?
I am good. I am still coronavirus free, which
Me
is
too.
my family. I don't think we've had anything near that I can tell, and neither have any of our animals. So that's a good thing.
Yeah,
But
and you've got more options because you have more people around. That's really good. What Nancy and I are doing great. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. I
Yeah.
was, I was getting, yeah, we figured you guys were hanging in there and safe. I know that we haven't locked our kids in for long periods of time. Everybody's been healthy, so I'm not done on purpose or anything like that. So it's been good.
Good. That's good.
I will say something that kind of stood out to me the other day was I don't know what we would have done if this had happened January, February-ish into December, where it was cold and we didn't have the option to go outside and do things.
Oh, yeah.
Praise
I
the Lord.
agree. I agree. I mean, I think I would have been out. I would have bundled up some way to get outside, and we're not as bad in our winters here in Oklahoma as some people in other places that are just really, cold and brutal. But still, it's nice that it's this time of year and we can get out and enjoy the outdoors and all that kind of stuff for sure.
It is. It's always things to be thinking about and things to be thankful for. Trying to change that perspective on times.
I think it does. I think every day trying to be thankful for something, it just helps you get things in perspective a little better. It does me.
It does me too. And we're doing a little something different today. We're actually filming from on different locations so that we can continue to be quarantine savvy, I guess is a good way to say that. So this is a little bit different for us as well. But
It is. It is. But I think I'm excited that we can still do this. Just another thing to be thankful for is technology, that we can do something like this. We don't get to go on site or somewhere like we usually do, but we can still do it, which is awesome.
yeah, I agree. I do wonder how all the extroverts are doing. I know for me, like there's times I'm like, I just want to go hang out with somebody. It's not a bad thing. So this is the next best thing in my opinion. Like I get something to hang out and talk to y'all. So this is good. I'm glad.
It is good. And I think the introverts are just what's different.
This is a dream come true.
This is the best life I've had. And I've had a couple of people that are married to introverts tell me that their spouse is just doing great through this. It's like, yes, I don't have to see people. So yeah, certainly personality type affects it a lot.
So it so does.
Yeah.
So we are talking today about a pretty big issue, and we've purposely not avoided, but we purposely haven't talked about this yet because we feel like there's causes to this. This is a part of a disease, of a sickness. It all comes back to sin at the end of the day. And there's sometimes I feel like sometimes this is too focused on, like you focus so much on this issue, you forget to talk about the other things that could cause this or that are leading to this or that are a part of this as well. This is a part of the disease to some degree.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's I think the subject, like you and I were talking before we went on the air, went live, that it is something it is talked a lot about. We're going to try to hit some different things today and kind of, but I think it's so prevalent, and more and more guys are dealing with it. Younger guys are dealing with it. So I think it's something that we need to think about, talk about, and have a plan for.
We do. I totally agree with you on that. And subject, obviously, we haven't said it yet. You have it up there on the day, but it's porn. We're talking about porn this weekend. It affects so many people. Just some fun statistics to throw out to y'all. Every second, over 28,000 people are watching pornography. Every second, over $3,000 is being spent on pornography on the internet. And every second, 372 people are typing the word adult into a search. And that doesn't even count all the other words you can type into it from that thing. Some other fun just to talk about. Every day, there are 37 pornographic videos created. 2.5, this is all mind-boggling, 2.5 billion emails containing porn are sent or received, and 68 million search queries related to pornography, which is 25% of total searches are generated. And then this is sick. This is sad. I think it's sick too, but this is just blows my mind. But 116,000 queries related to child pornography are received. That's just every day, every second, every day.
It's amazing. That just
the statistics. I was like, golly,
those numbers are huge. I mean, those are huge numbers when you think about that, and how much of the internet is used for porn.
Yeah.
All the good that we see in the internet, being able to do things like this, how many ministries have been during this time being able to use the internet and streaming and church online platforms and stuff like that, all those good things. And then you hear there's always the bad. I mean, the enemy always figures out a way to use the good things for bad things. And certainly porn's a big one of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it affects everybody. I know it's been a part of my life. It's been a part of my friend's life. We've battled through that in different ways, and it's still something that I have to be very, very cautious about. Just because I'm 40, I am 40. I just had my birthday, so I'm officially the big 40. That it just stops or it goes away at some point in time. This is something that I am constantly aware of, and my mind is triggered that way because of some of the things that I've looked at in the past that have, it doesn't take much for me to relive those moments again in my
Yep.
mind. It's amazing how it stays with you in some way.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. It's amazing how you can recall things like that. And, I think when I was younger, it was really just magazines like Playboy and stuff like that guys would pass around and look at, but I can still remember some of those images from those. And, and I think all guys, if you're honest with yourself, you need a plan because it's going to be out there. There's something that you may not even be looking for something, but something can catch your eye.
Yeah.
And once it does, it can trigger something because we're just wired that way, in porn itself. I mean, what it does, I mean, we're looking at either sex or putting someone as a sexual object. It's more toward erotic things and feelings, and it's not what sex was designed to be, and that was to be emotional or to appreciate the beauty of your spouse or those kind of things, and it becomes sexual objects. And then relationships just kind of fall by the wayside. They're not as valuable because all we do is look at women as objects. And that's, I think, just from the times in my past when that was there, absolutely, it's hard not to go there, with that. And I think too, some of the stuff I was reading the last couple of days is that, there's a lot of guys that I think I feel blessed really because I was able to look at it and walk away and not have that addiction to come back to it. That doesn't happen with everybody. And I've dealt with people in counseling where it is a strong, strong addiction with them. And it's sad and it wrecks lives and marriages.
It does. It does. And it causes so many different problems in so many different areas. And that's what we're talking about today, because it's something that it's real, it's here, and maybe not going away. It's a symptom, but it is a serious symptom that we need to talk about. And we'll give you all next steps as far as, hey, some good places to go to check out some sites and different things like that you guys can be
sites to help you. Let's be clear.
Not sites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please clarify that.
Yes.
Lost a lot of people right there. Like, oh, this is how this works. So first question we want to talk about is who does porn affect? And this has changed over the last maybe 15, 20 years.
I think we always thought porn was a male problem. Now we see it as a female. And I think it's just because of the things that are out there for women to read. I mean, some of it I think is visual for women, but a lot of it is the pornography that comes in things that they would read or things that they would look at, things like that. And so it's, I think, still predominantly men, but you hear more and more women that are dealing with it. And then if it affects me, it's going to affect Nancy. If I'm looking at porn, if she was reading things or doing things or seeing things, that it's going to affect me. It's going to affect our marriage. So who does porn affect? I think it affects everybody in one way or the other. I think it affects, look at, you just gave a stat on child porn. How in the world could we have ever gotten to the point where that would be something people would go after and spend money on and crave? And it just sounds, to me, the essence of the depravity of man that we can go places like that. And I think I think it's, what some of the research just shows that there's these pathways in their brain, and porn seems to override almost any other activity, even sex with your spouse. And so porn overpowers the brain's ability to really have and enjoy real sex. I want to put a quote up from this doctor I saw or read something about today. And Dr. Norman George, I guess it is, researcher at Columbia University, explains porn creates the perfect conditions and triggers the release of the right chemicals to make lasting changes in your brain. And so if you're into that and doing that consistently, you're changing your brain patterns. I mean, you're totally changing them. And the dopamine that's released and that rush that you have, what happens is that you get that rush. And just like with a lot of things with outside drugs, you finally build up your tolerance. And so then you've got to go something more explicit to get that same dopamine rush. That's where the addiction part comes in, because you're raising your level of what explicit things you're watching or what it takes to get that rush. And I think it's a never ending process once you get into it.
It just you have to have more is what you're saying. Like the
Yeah.
first fix, like any type of drug, the first fix, you got to have some more in order to make it. And before you know it, you're looking at, and I wonder how much of that where you start leading into the child pornography with guys is they start taking it to the levels that the other one's not getting them the rush they need. So we'll try this and we'll try that. And eventually it gets to the point where they're doing things that are going to land them in jail and big time problems with that.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing that concerns me is it becomes such a substitute for the gift of sex and marriage that God has designed for us, that got people that are really into it. If you're doing more and more pornography, you're going to have less sexual satisfaction in a human relationship because they're getting that dopamine, all that stuff we just talked about.
So true. And once a statistic that I read when you talk about women and seeing this now today, a third of the people that are looking at pornography are women. I thought that was I had no idea it was so high.
And I think it's there's a study that I read at Emory University that men and women are both interested in the visual part, but then probably the women also the things they would read or hear, the romantic stories. I mean, they kind of look at it a little different, I think, than men do, I guess is what I'm saying.
Wow.
It's still an attraction.
I wonder, because women are not nearly as visual as men, they're more emotional in the way that they are pursued. I wonder within the looking of pornography if it gears their mind to be more visual, and that distorts that aspect where men were already visual, but it distorts our ability to function normally sexually because of that. If women, it's like, hey, their minds from a feeling of, because really pornography, there's not a lot of emotional aspects to it. If it's more from I've always wondered that if that's how they're.
Yeah, I think just from people I've counseled, I think women, it makes them feel sexy, that we can make them feel sexy. They can identify more with that woman as a person and being sexy and identifying with that, where the guys, we're just looking at the body and we're not looking at anything past that they really that's where a lot of the turn on is them relating to that woman and being sexy.
Interesting. I was always kind of curious if that was where the like the release or where the hit came from. That comes to the pornography. So we know that it affects lots of different people. How does porn necessarily work as a whole? I think that's a pretty broad question that we have there, but some people are probably wondering, how does it necessarily work? Do you just look at it one time? Do you have to go online? Is it through magazines? How does it necessarily work when it comes to, because there's porn and there's softcore, there's different variations of that. So, how does porn work necessarily in today's society?
I think with people I've worked with, I've had people that what they would call their first porn was this guy, and he was quite a bit older now, but like he would wait for back when the Sears company sent out catalogs to houses when it was more rural America, and they had lingerie on there. And that was what he would look at the women, couldn't wait till the Sears catalog to come. I guess it was Victoria's Secret of that time,
My friends used to call it poor man's porn. That's what we used to
say. Exactly. And so what happens is that's what has continued. That has still been his cross to bear, is women in lingerie pictures, those kind of things. So I think we think of porn and we think about the things that are on the internet, things that we see where it's more sexual activity, people engaging in sex, things like that, or magazines where you look at people that are, without clothes, women without clothes, things like that. But I think it can be anything that causes that arousal in someone. And so if it is, that's a real broad definition of what porn is for people, because it can vary from person to person.
Yeah. And it's definitely, and it works in lots of different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to just be an arousal. It sometimes can just be something that you want to go look at from a curiosity standpoint, like, I'll just check it out a little bit and see what everybody's talking about. It can start, like you said, from the poor man porn days, or it can go all the way up to magazines. A lot of men had their first encounter, myself included, was through magazines. Now, obviously, you can find it. And I think the biggest thing with porn right now is how easy it can be to isolate yourself with it and secretly do it without anybody ever finding out that you're doing pornography, or you're looking at, because you have access to it in every facet. Anything that you can think about, you can look at porn with.
Yeah, the one of the studies I read recently on the iGen generation, the ones from born after 95, and that their tendency seems to be very much born between 95 and 2012, I think it is. And now the ones they are really into porn, isolated sex, because they don't have to worry about getting a sexually transmitted disease. They don't have to worry about getting somebody pregnant. And so what happens then, though, when one of the studies I read was a guy that had been very much into that had been his sex life. He had not even had a date till he met the person that he married, but then he could not perform sexually with her because he had just trained himself a certain way with pornography. So, I mean, I think we're not even beginning to know what all the long-term effects of the easy accessibility of pornography is today.
And it's not getting any better. I know there's lots of people that are fighting. And I feel like we were talking about this before we got on here, was what is it going to be like for my kids?
Yeah.
You know, my oldest son is 9, almost 10. You know, even in 10 years, what are the things that he's going to be having to work and fight against? It's just, it's scary to some degree. I know in Germany, I have some friends that he's in the military, and he said it's amazing how much more free Germany is when it comes to what's on television, when it comes on billboards and things like that. Just in general, what you're walking around every day, you're seeing things that are hitting your head mind with, and at least today, you don't have that access to it quite that easily, but it is scary to think about what in 10 years things are going to look like.
What it could be. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some people out there that like you talked about, the gentleman that was his sex life was pornography for years. And I've run into a lot of people that say, hey, honestly, if as long as it's not hurting anybody, and I'm not like, I'm not having sex with other people, and I'm like you said, no STDs, and I'm not getting pregnant, what's so wrong about it? It's just a little bit of porn. It's not a big deal. But I feel like we've covered a lot of that. Here's the consequences of what it does to you emotionally. But what if somebody says, hey, what's so wrong about it? What's the best response in that regard?
I don't think you can look at porn and not objectify people. And so I think to me, that's been the biggest damage that I see in people. They continue to look at people's objects. They look at body parts. They don't look at the real person. And so then when it comes the opportunity to have a real relationship with a woman, that the sex could be better there than anything you could ever have, but you've tainted yourself, or if you've got these brain retracking, all that kind of stuff going on, and so you're not able to embrace that. And so I think there's always reasons for why God says don't do things. It's not because he's some prude up there. I mean, God gave us sex. He made our bodies so they fit perfectly together. I mean, you look at all that, and you read things like the Song of Solomon, and you see that God gave it as a gift, and he loves for us to enjoy that. But porn distorts all that. And so the reason that God would be against that is because it's not his best, and he knows the destructive things that go along with it.
Yeah. And there's so much when we're talking about pornography, and what's so wrong with that, but that can go, it filters down from there. And I've done this, I've made this excuse. I'm like, oh, it's just a little this, it's just a little that. Well, it's not really pornography. I'm not looking at it. It's easy to get caught up in that. And some of that is, I think of social media. I think of movies, different movies that are on there. That's an easy one for me to get tripped up. If I'm feeling low, and everybody has their triggers. If I'm feeling low, I'm feeling like I'm overwhelmed or whatever, it's an easy trigger for me. I'll just watch this movie. I think there might be something in it. It'll be great. It's an easy thing for me to want to go towards. But Bible talks specifically, and it says, and you mentioned what God says, but Matthew 5:28 says, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed not just net bad thoughts, but it says committed adultery with her.
That's strong. Who said that quote?
That was Jesus.
Yeah, so it's pretty strong. I mean, that's right. That's a red letter redemption. Yeah, I mean, and I think what Jesus did in so many things, people say, well, you don't have to look at the Old Testament law now that Jesus came, right? But Jesus took it a whole new level. I mean, Moses in the Old Testament law, God gave him, don't commit adultery. Jesus says, don't lust after a woman in your heart. Well, what he means there is your sexual desire is supposed to go completely for your spouse, period. You know, and one of the things that I've been doing for years and I've told so many guys to do and had so many guys that God has come through on it is to pray every day that your sexual desire is only for your wife. God wants that for you, and he will answer that prayer.
That's good. And he does want the best for us. Another verse that it talks about, this one's quoted quite a bit, 1 Corinthians 6:18, it says, flee from sexual immorality. So when we're talking about movies, anything that has an ounce of, I said that weird, ounce of sexual immorality, anything that has a hint, even just a hint. Like, he doesn't talk about that with alcohol. He doesn't talk about that with drug addiction necessarily. It's when it comes to sexual morality, he specifically says, flee, like run away from it. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. And so it's a serious situation. He's something serious he takes very seriously and what he's instructing us to do.
Yeah, I think the thing that I thought of when you said that is we need to have a plan. It's not, I think so many guys say, how close can I get to the fire without getting burned? Or can I look at, the cover of Victoria's Secret catalog or something? Or what can I do? Instead of saying, hey, how far can we stay away from this? And knowing if you're getting in the situation, what are you going to do? What if you come across something? What if you click on something? If you wait till you get in it, it's a lot harder to make that decision to pull back than if you've already said, man, here's a boundary I'm not going to cross. If something pops up, my phone, my computer, my whatever it is, or I run across magazine, whatever it is, I'm turning and running. I'm fleeing like that, just without even a second thought. And you've got to gear yourself for that because we're all too vulnerable that when it's right in front of us, it's a lot harder to say, I'm gone. You've got to have that step that you take ahead of time. You've got to have that plan.
So true. And it's so easy to fall into this trap, I think, for men, and now apparently a lot of women too. Hold on a second. I got kids coming in. Not right now. Hey, can you go out there? I got to finish this conversation. I'll be out. Thank you, Bubba. So we are doing this at home, and I've got an angry 7-year-old right there. Probably got in a fight with his brothers. So
and he must have lost. I mean,
he lost. So I'll be having that conversation after this is all over with. Yeah. Obviously I'm glad he didn't walk in while we were talking about something really, really important.
Right.
Important thing. That's another conversation I'm not ready to have with my boys yet, but it's coming. So when we talk about lust, though, at the same time, like, we need to be aware that we're fleeing from all of these sexual immoralities and anything that could potentially be an issue when it comes to our lives, and not taking anything too lightly. But I know for me, and I think a lot of men have done this, but I've gotten rid of all of my social media, not even from the stand that I was just looking at all these dirty pictures. It was just taking up my time too. I'm like, I don't need there's nothing on there to look, but I've gotten rid of all those. And that's been I'm not taking any chances, especially with where you and I are at within our lives, families, ministry. I can't afford to fail in this area. I can't afford to fail in lots of areas, but this one can trip up and do a lot of damage to so many different things.
Well, and we talk about what it does to our wives. Every couple I've worked with where the guy's been in porn, I've not had one woman that didn't say, why does he look at that when he's got me? I mean, it does. And okay, Brian, there's a couple things that you can cut out in Sarah Jane on these.
You can't use my phone right now. Can you go in there, please?
Now we're looking at a lamp, beautiful lamp with colors of kind of matches. Oh, I was
man, it was doing so good there for a second too. The boys are okay. All right. So, but we'll jump right back. I can edit that. Be great. But talking about, what were you saying? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I needed to.
I got off
talking about
your lamp.
Social.
God, it was so important that I said. I can't remember.
Well, you said it, so we can just cut it right then. But let's keep going on that.
Okay.
But we know that lust is important. So I think it's important for all of us to, when it comes to what is pornography, it's not so much about pornography as much as it's what's about lust. And what is it that you are giving your attention to that's taking your mind from what God intended sex to look like and creating something in your mind that's not real. Like you said so much about it distorts the way you look at women, objectify different women in different ways.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with anything that's lustful in your heart can definitely be an area you need to avoid.
Yeah, I've had guys tell me that it gotten to the point where they are mentally undressing every woman they come in contact with.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just lust on steroids, I guess.
Yeah. That's great. So true. It's important. Now, we've talked about all the symptoms and things that you need to be aware of. Just leaving here in the next few minutes here, just want to talk about ways that you can overcome this. There's some good resources, some good things that you can do.
Absolutely.
And that you're not alone, that you're not a terrible person if you looked, or that you can't get away from this, that God doesn't have grace and redemption from this. I'm living proof of that. You're living proof. We've seen what God can do from the redemption aspect of things. So I know for me personally, having accountability has been a huge part of, we've talked about that in the podcast before, but friends and men that I can lean on and say, listen, I did this. Here's what I'm struggling today. Even like today, I'm feeling really, one of my friends calls it lusty. He goes, you feeling lusty today, Colby? I said, yeah, I'm feeling kind of lusty today. So that's a good way to say it. He'll say, hey, how you doing? And that is a key part of helping you overcome some of these things.
I think so. And I think you've got to be careful when you pick an accountability partner. I think you got to pick somebody that is going to get in your face and you can get in their face, that loves you enough to say, did you look at anything this week? And does that consistently, and that you'll be honest with, because I think the accountability is a huge part of that. I mean, it just is. And as guys, I think we need accountability. We need somebody that's going to know the areas that we struggle in, and knows the questions to ask us. And so whatever yours is, and yours may be looking at, I don't know, the Sears catalog. I don't think they make those anymore. Maybe.
I think it's obsolete, but I know where you're going with it for sure.
Yeah. Or if it's a Playboy magazine, or it's on your phone, or whatever it is that somebody's going to say, I know what your vulnerability is. Did you go there this week?
Yeah.
And that's part of accountability, big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability is huge. Also, give yourself grace. If you fall on this, is something that you're working through. You can overcome this. This is not something that's the death sentence. That it doesn't define you, but you are going to have to work hard to overcome it. I know I have friends that have literally gotten rid of their smartphone. They have a flip.
Yeah.
Doing. I have to text their wife or something because she's a part of this too. But I admire that. The Bible says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. So not that extreme, but saying, hey, what is it that's causing you to want to look or to be a part of this? Get rid of it. If it's Netflix, if it's stream, get rid of Netflix. Don't let yourself look at something that's going to lead you down a path that you don't want to go on.
Absolutely. You've got to know what your triggers are, and you've got to be honest with yourself about them. And then what do you do to not get those triggers there? You're right. Whatever it is. And for you, it may be totally different. Yours may be something silly. Maybe the first time you ever looked at porn, you were sitting in a Dairy Queen parking lot. And so, I don't know, Dairy Queen's could be a trigger for you, because it brings back that memory. You've got to know what your triggers are. I'm sorry, Dairy Queen. First thing came to my mind. I love Dairy Queen.
Not knock on Dairy Queen and their ice cream. It's incredible, but you're just saying, hey, that could be, wherever the location
wherever your trigger is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's a good example. Also, I think so often we are afraid to admit that we're struggling with this area for what we feel like would view in it. And some of the statistics I read at the beginning, there are a lot of people that are dealing with this, and most of them just don't tell us. So the fact that you can boldly claim and say, I need help, is a big deal. And don't let that enemy tell you that you're weak or you're terrible person, right? Confess it. The Bible says, confess to one another.
Absolutely.
And so, very healthy thing to do. Would you agree? I'm assuming you would, that counseling is a great option as well, Dr. Kim?
Yes, I think it is. I was going to also add, I think counseling is, and I think for guys, women go to counseling so easy, and men, I think it's a little harder for us. Just to say, if you came in to see someone like me, man, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to put you down. I'm going to help you find out what it is you're struggling with. We're going to together come up with a plan to help with that, to come alongside you. Don't worry about someone beating you up in that. That's not going to happen. Or if it does, walk out of that and go to somebody else. But no, I think that'd be good. I also was going to throw up a couple of the things that are out there. These are some of the programs that are out there that you can put on. Quistidio for Windows. There's Microsoft Family Safety, Norton Family Outline, and Covenant Eyes. And there may be others. Those are the ones that I just kind of know of, and that I thought of today. But there are tools out there to help you. You may not be able to get rid of your smartphone because of your business or whatever it is, but you can make it safer than it is. And you can, put some things on it. You can you can control when you can have internet access, and you can plug in the times that, you might be more vulnerable and you don't have access at that time. So use the tools available to you to help you in this too.
That's so true. And even giving, when you talk about tools within your phone, you can give people access to your phone to cancel and lock it up when you can't, certain times when, like, man, this is nighttime, it's going to be the worst time. Well, they can put a password on, you can't even access it. And that could be an option. Also, going to your church and going and asking pastors and people, there are a million resources at churches as well that are specifically, and if they don't have necessarily the resources there, they are in contact with organizations that are specifically geared towards helping men overcome and women overcome this problem. So definitely check out your local church as well. And
yeah, another one I thought of that when you said that was xxchurch.com, which is available. This is a guy that was in the porn industry. He came out. Now he apparently he still goes to porn conventions, and he has his booth of xxx.com right there, and he tells people about Jesus and how bad this is for you and this kind of stuff. But they have some really good programs as far as they've got online groups you can be a part of. It's really that addictive part. If you want some anonymity, whatever that is, when you'll be anonymous.
Anonymity, I like that. Yeah, that sounds good.
You can go to the groups. I've had some men that just raved about that. It was hard at first, but there were some great things that came out of that. And just knowing there's other guys that struggle, you may think you're the only one that struggles with this thing with porn. You're not.
You're not. And
just know that you can find somebody you can walk through life with.
Yep. And just to give you another statistic, when it comes to you're not alone, there's approximately 40 million American people regularly visit porn sites. So there's a lot of Americans in general that are looking at it. So you're not alone, and don't let Satan lie to you and tell you that you're alone, that you can't get help. Some of the men that I admire the most when they've overcome this is the ones that have come and said, I need help. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I ask this? How do I get past this? Because it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your marriage. It's going to affect your family. And if you don't take care of it and control it, it's going to ruin a lot of people's lives, including yourself. So, but you're great. There's grace at the same time. We want to make sure that everybody.
Absolutely. And just for us, I mean, Colby and I are here for you. I mean, you can contact either one of us, and, if you need to talk about it, more resources, anything like that. Yeah, there's a lot of grace, and there's a lot of ways to get help. And it's just it still comes about, you got to make the decision. You've got to decide there's something better out there for me. And I promise you that there is.
That's good words. Absolutely worth it. Dr. Kim, I've had a blast today. As much
as good topic, tough topic, but man, if a guy's got eyes, it's a problem.
It is, but this is something that is important. It's again, like, it's a symptom. I don't believe it's the root cause, but it is a symptom. Sure. And, there's lots of things here, but it was good to talk about this stuff, because I know a lot of men are going to be going through this and listening to this, and we want you to know that we can't wait to see what God does in you and through you in that aspect of things.
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed this time. Thank you for your wisdom, and thank you for sharing your insight in this as well. But let everybody know, hey, we're going to sign off here, but it's been a pleasure. So on our end, hey, Dr. Kim, it's okay not to be. We don't want men just to be okay, right? We want men to be
a better man.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you all soon.
See you soon. Thanks.